All right, Harry, welcome to the channel. So I've been teasing this for quite some time now. You're the guy that's had over 100
Right.
sales with his first book that he's ever published. And like I say, been teasing this for a while. People want to know what you've been doing. They want to know what type of books you've been doing. They want to know a little bit about you. So yeah, if you're happy to talk about this for a few minutes, then I think we should do it.
Yeah, more than happy. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I tell you what, let's just start this. You talk about yourself just for a couple of minutes. Tell us just a couple of basics about yourself and what made you turn to publishing to try and create your income.
Yeah. My background's in web design, graphic design. So it seemed a good opportunity when Amazon opened the doors for everybody to get into KDP. I've been made redundant twice. I'm 63 now. So it seems to be, synonymous with the age.
Yeah.
That's redundancy. So I thought you need to take control of this. So I actually started about 4 years ago, writing three fiction novels, which I've actually parked at the moment. I intend to pick that up again, but I'm concentrating on this simply because you can get these out quicker than you can a fiction novel.
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
by get this out, you're referring to what type of books you've been publishing? Low content, high content, in
Yes.
between. Tell us about that. What type of books are you pursuing? You've done four books, is it?
Yes. I mean, one properly and three no content books.
Right.
My
Tell us
first
about the ones
attempt.
that's making sales, then tell us about the ones that aren't making sales,
Okay.
and that's going to help people.
The first higher content book, it's still regarded as a low content book, but it's a higher content book, is an activity book I've made at the moment. And I did spend, to be honest, about 5.5 months setting up the templates and researching the software for it. But now that they're in place, you could, do other copies of other versions with different puzzles in them really quickly. So it was worth the effort and time.
Yeah, sure. So this the you have the book that's making the sales is but I don't want to give away what the book is exactly, but it's an activity book for adults. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So tell us how many since it's been published, how many sales has that book made?
It's somewhere over 100 now at the moment. I don't know the exact figure, but
That's your first book as well that you've uploaded is the activity
it's
book
the
for
first,
adults.
yes, the first proper, that I would call regarded as a book. Really, the other no content ones were just blank journals with a crafty index,
Yeah.
which didn't work.
Okay, so you're finding, yeah, I talk about a lot on my channel about the low content scene and how hard that actually is to get into.
Yeah, yeah,
It's made out to be like it's easy money. You produce a load of no content or low content books and you start making
yeah,
sales because it's so easy to do. But the reality is completely different. And I think you
yeah.
found that from you have a section of books that are no content or low content which aren't
Mm.
making sales. Is that right?
That's right. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
I've actually took two of them off
you've took two of them
now.
off because
Yeah, and I'm going to take the third one off. It's just pointless, really.
yeah, exactly. But the book that you put effort into, the book that you spent a lot of
Yes,
time with, the book that you did your niche research for, I assume, is the one that's making
yes,
you sales, right?
yes. That's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. I followed the advice of one of your tutorials on activity books that you did
Oh, that's
pretty
excellent, right?
closely. It's a huge influence on it, to be honest. So thank you for that. It was well worth it. And I think you offered a little companion guide for something like £1. Was it £1? And one of them was free.
Yeah, I think
And
that
it was
on
really
Gumroad,
good.
really, I remember
Yeah,
making
really.
them. Yeah, they made me
So,
about £9 over the course of the year. So yeah,
oh well, it's made me more than that. So thank you.
yeah, that's good, mate. So I tell you what, since it's hard. I keep talking about on my channel lately about it's so hard to tell people what good quality is, and I think you'll find, yeah, because you're making sales with this book, you put a lot of effort into the interior for the book you've made, and
Thank you.
ultimately, I
Yeah.
think that's what's been making you sales. That's what's been making you stand out in front of your competition, right? So I think that's such a hard thing to get across to other people because I can't show everyone the interiors of my books all the time.
No. Yeah.
So I think what would be a good idea is why don't you show us inside that book, the one that's making the sales, just to give people an idea as to what type of quality they should be aiming for when it comes to producing
Yeah.
books.
Sure. Yeah.
If that's right to share your screen.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Let's see. Right. Okay. This is actually I'm doing a kids version of an activity book
Right.
similar to the same range, and this is one of the pages for that. Now, the kite strings has come out the new Maze software,
Yeah.
which we'll probably talk about later.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But this is done in a very similar style to the one I released. And this is another example page. I haven't quite finished this yet. It just needs a, you know, you get a lot of white space like that. It doesn't do any harm to add some faded decoration in the background.
Right.
You know, with the transparency down to 10 or 20%. I'll give you an example of that. Excuse me, I'll show you some more. Now this is, you know, I noticed there was like a cogwheels puzzle that you see in a lot of other puzzle books. So I developed a template system. I drew these up in Illustrator. We're in Illustrator at the moment. And the resources here, this was from a vintage collection. I can't remember where I bought that. I don't think it was Creative Fabrica, but it was one of the online stores.
Right.
And I just thought it would be different rather than put the cogwheels up, which way is this going, which way is that going. I actually put the ratios in as well, so it hits the people out there who are interested in the math side of it.
Right.
But that's not everybody's cup of tea. So I'll put here, if you're not interested in math, just ignore, you know, the last question on the RPM. So you can just literally, which way is it turning? But I thought rather than just put the cogwheels up, I've called it the great thingamajig contraption. And give it this kind of this Victoriana feel to it, you know, just to give it a sort of a theme, to create a bit of interest. And moving on, the trivia, I put a trivia section in. There's 8 sections in the book, and I think there's about 10 versions on each section. And some sections are split down into 3 sections, which I'll show you in a minute. The trivia was brought out from Ken Blutman's software. So I imported that into, I like Ken's stuff, but I don't use it in the actual interface that he uses. So I export the PDFs and bring them into Illustrator. I mean, you could do the same thing in PowerPoint, I suppose, if you're not familiar with Illustrator. But like, it's handy because you've got the stuff already. He's sourced a lot of questions and answers, and you can also add to the database. So it's a nice little piece of software he's got.
Excellent. So what's the software that you have on screen here to make these? I made a note
of it here. Yeah, it's Activity Book Mastery and Trivia Book Mastery.
Okay, excellent.
Ken Blutman.
Ken Blutman, yeah, I've heard of Ken. I've not used any of his stuff, but this looks good. Yeah.
So that's what I use for the trivia. The Crazy Maze, of course, we all know this one. This was the first version, the instant maze generator.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this is what I meant, the background graphics here. If you look at this compass, it just needed something on the mazes you lost. I put this compass in, I put the transparency down so it doesn't, like, you know, get in your face too much. The maze is the main thing. And they just put these little tiny little graphics to start. This is like a maze run, I thought. So you go from one maze into the next, into the next.
Yeah.
And just at the bottom, I put a timer like that for an extra gimmick, for some extra fun. See if you can do them in under 3 minutes.
So what made you think of this? Why did you decide to add these different types of runs in? Because this is different than activity books or maze books that I've seen before. Why have you put these in?
Well, I thought there's only so many ways you can portray a maze, isn't it? And then it gets a bit boring, you know. That now, as you notice, it's got a star system on it here. As it gets harder, I put bigger mazes in and kind of more intricate pathways, which it lets you do, that software. But I thought it just needs another gimmick. It needs something else. So I thought, I've never seen one where they run from one maze to another before. So I thought, what a good idea. I'll try that. I'm adding a little timer at the end. Not everybody will use the timer, will you know?
Sure.
But it's a good thing to see if they can do it in under 3 minutes. So I put in minutes and seconds there. Yeah, that's it really. I think it's little touches like this, instead of putting maze number 1, maze number 2, like you see coming out the generators, you know.
Yeah, so this is the fine details that you're putting into your book.
It is, yeah.
And mate, listen, I when I talk to people on my channel, the big thing for me that makes my book sell the most is differentiating, you know,
yes, yeah.
Doing something that stands out. that's what the main thing for making sales, because you're in a competitive niche here, like this adult activity
Yes,
books, that's crazy. Like there's so much competition. So
yes, it was a
if
risk. That, yeah,
yeah, for sure, it's a big risk,
yeah.
but it's paid off, and I think you're actually ranked on the first page for this as well. Now, if you had to say what would you do to make your book stand out? So aside from putting just a couple of different types of mazes in here, what have you focused on to differentiate your book and make sure that someone says, what, I've not seen this before on Amazon. Why what is this?
I think it's a character really. Like in the title there, I've see the little mazes in the C and the M, and
Yeah,
the extra touches. And if you move on, this runs throughout. Let's come back to that. The Sudoku here, I've put the Japanese element in with the numbers fighting and the little tree there in the background. Same again with the word search. I put this hat on, like the Sherlock Holmes hat, the
yeah,
deer
yeah,
stalker and the pipe, and then the magnifying glass, rather than just putting word search in like black text, And I've put this fun font in, so it sets the mood. It sets it to like I wasn't sure whether this would be received well amongst adults, because it's probably more received amongst children. But when you look at the stuff that's being sold commercially, in the UK anyway, off the shelf, they all do this. So I thought, well, surely we should be doing the same thing. People are buying it. It must be working. You want a bit of a laugh, don't you? It is a fun thing. So
absolutely, yeah,
I run this throughout. Same with the Hashi bridges here, or Hashi Wakakero, I think it's called, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
I just put the little ninjas in just to spice it up a bit and give it that, the Japanese feel, and
yeah, for
the
sure, yeah,
explosion going off in the background there, and the little bridge, between the H and the B. It's things like that, I think, and it just makes the standard that bit better, so that when people see it, and if they're buying it for a gift for someone, they'll think, oh, they'll appreciate this because,
yeah,
some thought's gone into it. At least I hope
absolutely,
so.
yeah, yeah,
Same with the word games. This is the one that splits down into 3 sections. So you've got the anagrams here and the cryptograms and the crosswords. Now, I think the little graphics again help here. The fact that you've put the spy in and the cryptogram and down by the anagram again, it just lends from that white page, doesn't it? And
yeah,
the starkness of nothing else. And another touch, I thought, coming back to the coloring page, something you don't see a lot in coloring graphics, particularly ones that have been farmed out. The line width is always the same. Now, I made this in a mandala generator. Can't remember which one it was, but I'll let you know later if
yeah,
anybody's
sure, yeah,
interested. It wasn't expensive. I think it was about $15 or something like that. And you
right,
can generate your own mandalas. You actually make them. They're not random. You make them and it repeats. But what I did, the extra touch I put in was I put line thickness in. So if you look at the border there, you've got this nice contrast between the thicker lines and the thinner lines. And you don't see this in a lot of coloring books. They all have the same thin lines, except if you get a really good quality one off the shelf again, you'll notice that it's like this comic art where they do have the variation in line thickness.
yeah, for sure. I
So I
mean,
think it's,
just looking at this now, mate. Sorry to interrupt you, but just looking
yeah,
at this,
no,
like,
no.
what this says to me is that you've gone that extra mile. You've gone, a little bit further than what most people do. Because most people, if they have access to a software that generates mazes for them or words such, they just shove them up there onto Amazon and hope that they
Yeah.
make sales. Now, in my opinion, it's no coincidence that your book is the one that's making sales, and the thousands of other books out there that are just generic, that don't have this amount of detail in them, that haven't, they've not put in this extra bit of effort. They're the ones that aren't making sales. So to me, it doesn't seem like a coincidence that yours is the one that's making sales, right?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's what it is. It's hard to say with it being the first one. I hope the second one is received as well, and the ones after that. The only other thing is like think about the customer. I would say that as well. On the coloring pages, some people don't put anything on the other side because it bleeds through the color. So I've put this little pattern in. If I can find it here. Overdone with my pattern. There it is. I just put this little pattern on the page, and it says this page is left blank to allow any bleed through of color inks from the other side. Now, it's better than leaving it blank or putting it black as some people do, I think, because
Right.
they might think, well, what's happened to the other side? Not being aware that it's to do with bleed through. And just to add to it, I added a cutout version of a blotter page with a similar pattern on the back of the book.
Right.
So if they really want to be careful, they can cut out the blotter page and put that behind each coloring page. And again, it just shows the extra step for the customer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And also when you're creating books like this that have got more detail in them, like how, obviously there's no real way of testing this when it comes to your A plus content, but when you're showing off, a book that you've put a lot of care and a lot of time into, you can showcase that in your A plus content. And like I said, there's no way you can really split test that to know if that's working for sure. But if you're showing off something completely different in your A plus content on your listing, that has to, I'm 99% convinced that it makes a difference to your sales. And I know, like, you
Yeah,
sent me a document. I asked you, I literally said, Harry, how do I make A plus content the way that you've made yours? Because what you made was fantastic. So can you tell
thank you.
us about your A plus content very quickly?
Yeah, I think you're right. The A plus content, it's those first few seconds, isn't it? I mean, Amazon's very gratefully, I'm grateful to this edition. It's so powerful. I think it was available to sellers before, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, but it's the first time
Yeah, yeah.
the KDP's had it. And so obviously a description, your cover, bang, the first thing, it's got to be strong, it's got to compete, it's got to. You've only got those first few seconds when somebody's browsing.
So tell us your book cover. How did you create that? How do you decide what your book cover was going to look like? Because when I saw your cover, I was like, you know what, that fits the niche absolutely perfectly. So how did you
Oh,
create
thank
that?
you.
What made you create it the way that you did create it?
I looked at the ones that were selling well. I looked at the colors they were using, and I looked at the type of styles to see what I was competing against,
Actually, mate,
not
let
to
me
copy it.
interrupt you there just very quickly
Yeah,
because
sure.
I just had an interview with the life graduate guy Romney Nelson, and we were talking about the same thing here. Okay,
Yeah,
this is something I've just not ever heard anyone talk about looking at existing listings and in the niche that you're trying to compete with, looking at those listings and then doing things like taking the colors that are working for other books, the elements that are working for other books, the styles, the shapes and things like that. And we were talking about that, and he said that to me. He said, you know what, I go in, I look at what other people are doing, then I come out and I do my own version with
yes,
with
that's right.
that. And that's what you're telling me here, right? You looked at other people's
Yes,
books, right?
that's the important thing. And it's not always a case of using the colors they're using. If you're looking at the top sellers and they're all using the same color, for instance, it might be a good opportunity to try something different but still keep the main qualities that are obviously working for them. Look at the fonts they're using, look at the colors, look at the fonts, but try to come in at a different angle. This is what you were always saying, and I think you're absolutely right. You've got to be original, particularly now. And I used a gimmick, which I can't really say here without giving the title away, but I used a gimmick on the graphic, which I hadn't seen anybody else using. For example, something, if you were using a recipe book, this is something you could do. Tasty recipes. You could, for instance, put a little bite mark out of the corner of the bottom of the
Right,
cover.
right.
And the forward pages, the actual text on the forward pages, you would print so that it looks like it's coming through.
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't work with every book, but for most people that are seeing that as a little thumbnail, they're going to go, what's that? With a bite mark out the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got them hooked straight away. And if your A content's strong, the minute they click on it and the A content's good and the product's good, you're halfway there.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
mate.
yeah.
Like, these fine details, like you say about the, I'm not going to give away your book, but like the little details on the front cover. And I had a book. It was like a unicorn coloring book, and on the U of the unicorn, I had this outsource. I can't do it myself, but I had like the horn of the unicorn coming out of the U or something like that. And when people
Yes,
see
yeah,
that you have something, even if it's slightly different to what other people are offering out there, because Amazon is chock a block with generic
it is.
books, like, but when you do something slightly different, when you offer like what you're doing here inside of your book, where you actually go that extra mile, or you change a few things on the front cover where it makes sense to, that's when your book starts standing out. And of course, like you say, you can showcase that now in your A plus content. And what you've
Yeah.
done here is it's a real testament to
Oh, thank you.
to the fact that if you do create something different, something unique, then you will make sales. Now that leads me to So yeah, that leads me to talking about ad campaigns. So did you manage to get your book ranked organically on Amazon?
Yes, it was ranking. I think it's the Amazon Boost algorithm. You know that when it first goes on, the first couple of weeks were quiet for me anyway, and I thought, oh, I expected more than that. And then it started going. And if you look at if you track the stats, you can see the boost seems to come every 5 or 6 days, and the sales go up, and then they'll taper off, then they'll go up again each time it gets a boost. So it was selling, but I did try a couple of campaigns which did help the sales, but I've not had much success cost-wise with them. I can't get the ACOS low enough. And
Yeah.
I think it's just early days yet. So I'm going to get a few more books up. I believe that affects the algorithm if you have more books up as well. I don't know if that's the case.
To be honest with you, I'm not actually sure, but you know,
No,
did you your book was it was ranked on it is ranked on the first page organically because you know you've been running the ads and it's not necessarily been enough to push it up the rankings or anything like that.
no, no.
But you know, you're in a competitive niche, but what you've done, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you found an angle on this very, very, very competitive niche and you've managed to get on the front page of it and you're still, you know, you're making sales, you made a few sales today.
Yes, yeah,
So you know,
yeah.
would you say to people that are trying to get books that are you know typically competitive, if you take a different angle on that, you can still get ranked organically, right?
Yes, obviously, yeah. In this case, certainly. Yeah, it's got to be. I'd say it's got to be the fact that I was trying to do something original and I've spent more time getting it set up right. Each design I would print out. I highly recommend this if anybody isn't doing it. When you do your first page, print it out at life size in good quality from your printer, because you just cannot see it the same as it is on the screen. And when it's in your hand, life size or A4, it's near enough the same size as an 8.5 by 11. So yeah, I do that with every section. I don't do it throughout the whole book, but when I know it works and the typeface is right and the contrast, the scale is right, we're good to go. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
you
honestly,
need
like
to do that sort of thing.
I think what you've done is fantastic, and like this is, you know, it's funny when I think it was a while ago you showed me your book, and I think you sent it in for the Helium 10
Yes, yeah,
competition. I
yeah.
loaded it up and I was like, when people do that, I go check out their books or whatever. I loaded it up and I was like, you know, it's ranked really well. And I looked at it and I thought, is this one of my books? Like I literally thought it was my book. And the fact that
Oh,
you've
thank you. Yeah.
created something the exact way that I would have done it, but you know, the A+ content was much better than mine. It was so good to see, and it's not a coincidence that that's making sales for you. So actually, that's going to lead me on to my next question here is what do you have planned for your next books? Because you know your low content books were, should we say a failure? Should we call them that? The
I
no
would say
content books.
failure with a capital F. Yeah, yeah.
Let's call it that. But yeah, your activity book is doing insanely well. It's going to make you sales for a long time, and you know Q4 that'll blow
Oh,
up for you
thank
for
you. Hope
sure.
so. Yeah.
It will. So yeah, tell us about your next projects.
There's a couple of things, and I'm trying. I'm focusing on the impaired vision or large print
Big market, yeah.
audience.
Actually,
So there's
sorry to
two.
interrupt you, but that's a big one for me as well. The large print
Yeah,
market
seems to be.
Amazon.
I was looking at it, and your videos again, you know, prompted me to look for it. And looking at the stats and what's up there, it seems to be a good market. I think you could do a lot with that. There's a couple I can't really. Again, I can't say. Sorry, folks, I can't really say what it is that I'm doing on this, but there's something that I haven't seen anywhere in the large print industry that actually it's like another idea I've got. It's an original concept. So there's two books I'm releasing, one for Sudoku and one for word search. But it has this unique kind of concept. Now, if the sales get up and going, I'll come back to you on this.
I was going to say you're teasing us
If you're
way too
interested.
much here, man.
But I mean, I hope so. But it's worth. I think you've got to try. I've also got a children's book, illustrated book on the go at the moment. But I'm concentrating on these first. I'm just really testing the water with different areas, different genres, to see how each one copes, you know, and how it performs really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's talk about your so you're going to be using the new Handdrawn Maze software.
Yes,
Let's
yeah,
talk about that in just a second. And we'll take a look at some of the designs that you're making so that can you know give people some idea as to what
yeah,
the
yeah.
quality of your books are like. But tell us, like, if you had to say to someone, who's just starting publishing, or someone that's been publishing for a long time and it's not having any success, like if you could summarize within a couple of minutes, like what the most important steps to take when it comes to making, a passive
Yeah.
income online, what would you say that they are?
It's a three-part thing. Do your niche research first. Every time, absolutely. That doesn't mean you can't do something that you want to do, but don't do a passion project. Do your niche research and find that there's a market there for it, that it's selling and that it's not swamped, that, there's plenty of niching down and opportunities you can have. That's the first thing. The second thing, try and be original. Don't follow the crowd. Try and see what's working and do your own angle on it. It's crucial. And the third thing, I would say, I made a note of that actually. Don't be afraid to take a risk.
Absolutely, lots of risk involved with this. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's, it's, I spent a lot of time producing low content books. I think I wasted maybe 4 or 5 months of my life just doing like journals and planners and things like that. And it's only until I switched things up and I've been doing exactly what you've just laid out in those steps, that's when the sales started coming in. Finding niches, that this is a big one for me. So finding a niche that is not too broad and not too specific either. So finding right in the middle, which is what you've done with your book. I know that definitely. And then, differentiating, adding some value to that, doing something different. And what you were doing different was, I think you actually added more puzzles than other books as well. 290, was it?
Yes, quite a lot in there.
You had a lot in there, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But that's one way that you've added value to it. The other way you've added value to it is by doing something different inside it. You have the cute little fighters and all the things going on inside the book, and the extra effort that you've put into that. So when you combine the good niche, the good book, the good cover, the thoughtful cover, which was, you went and you looked on Amazon what other people were doing. You took some of those design elements from their covers. I'm just talking for you here at the moment, but am I on the ball here?
Spot on. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah, and then all those things come together, and it's no coincidence that your first book is the one that's making you sales, man. Honestly, like it's really impressive, and yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that I found out earlier rather than later. There's only 3 books. I think we all need to make mistakes, really, don't we, to learn.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you what. Before we end this, should we take a look at what you've been doing with the Handdrawn maze software?
Yeah, I just had a quick experiment. I mean, I'll just share the screen here again.
Yeah, sure.
I've actually shown you the one that I brought into Illustrator. So this was the kite strings that I brought in to Illustrator. I exported that maze out. I didn't use any of the resources. I was using my own. I've also done another test here where I was bringing resources into this package. I mean, the resources that come with it are fantastic. It's a great package. It really is.
Yeah.
But I was just pushing the boundaries and seeing what you could do with it. So I've, in the interest of pursuing printables on Etsy, colored printables on Etsy. I mean, you could even do a colored, but it's a bit expensive colored production on KDP. But
you don't see it much, so either the colored maze books and stuff.
People are doing well, aren't they?
Yeah.
The smaller age bracket, where it's about 30 pages, 35 pages, you can still hit a profit without losing. But if it goes over that, it goes silly. So I think it's probably more for like Etsy printables and stuff like that. But I brought these assets in. I brought the little graphics in from Canva. Now, Canva's terms are quite relaxed lately. They just want you to use an original design. They don't want you to, like, if you were to just use this crab or the octopus and put it on a T-shirt, that's a no-no. But if you create an original design with their elements and put your own element in it, which in this case is the maze, they're more than happy with that. Now, by all means, check out the terms yourselves, but I was just reading over it again today, and they are pretty relaxed. So I think combined with that, I mean, it's £10 a month for the pro subscription for Canva, and combined with that and this, you could actually put out some printables to Etsy. Just don't forget to say that they are not for resale and that they're just for print, because you're going to upset the guys that's made this software if you don't. They're protecting their assets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But
So
it's fantastic. Yeah, it is.
yeah, so what we have in front of us is the Handdrawn Maze software. So you know, this is just out now. It's during, we're talking during the promotional period. You've picked it up on offer. What are your first thoughts of it? And honestly, mate, be completely honest. I don't care enough to you know to try and manipulate your opinion on this. So
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think it depends on you. It seems a lot the way they price it, splitting it into 4 parts. I mean, they probably have the longest pitch in history. It's probably in the Guinness Book of Records. Everybody that's gone to the sales page must be exhausted after
yeah,
reading the 4, because you have to do it 4 times over.
right.
So I ended up buying 3 out of the 4. I don't really need the one of the modules, but I think for some people it'll be a lot of money, but you have to take into account how much you can do with it, and it is just a one-off price. So I think it comes to $200 and something altogether, if I'm not mistaken, for all 4 modules. But bear in mind that, you know, you're going to make much more of that back on it if you get busy with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything's there that you need, really. The only thing I would say is probably early days for the guys, and they probably would work on it, but it could do with when you bring these little assets in, there's no rotate function, there's no
Right.
flip function. That would be nice if you could flip them horizontally, vertically, like you can on Canva.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, again, the same with the mazes itself, which are amazing. It would pardon the pun there. It would be nice if you could change the line thickness on the maze.
Right.
That would also be a nice feature. But again, I don't know how practical that would be with the software.
Sure.
But even
Yeah.
as it stands, it really is good. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been using it as well. I've not you know, I've not made anything set in stone yet, but I've just been playing around with it. It's one of those pieces of software that I find myself losing a lot of time just sort of playing with, even just for fun.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to make these mazes. And honestly, like, so you're going to be working on children's books, and I think, you know, this is something that I'm going to be pursuing as well going into 2022. I think like early education for children, like these type of mazes can be included in those type of books. It's huge. Like the niche is massive.
Exactly.
And yeah, is that something that you're going to be pursuing as well, that type of niche?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. The education industry of it is really, there's a lot of opportunity there. Definitely, I'll be doing a lot in that field. So yes, probably that, and some assets. I'm sorry, Etsy printables as well.
Yeah.
To see if we can get another passive income stream going. But I don't really want to get too distracted from Amazon at the minute. To anybody who's using Canva or PowerPoint, and they are both good programs, don't be afraid to try a graphics program. There's plenty of good ones out there, like Inkscape, that's free, for instance, a vector program for free. And it's not as bad as you think. You know, a lot of people think that it's hard to use, but they really aren't. Just give it a try, because once you have that extra control, you won't go back. You know.
Absolutely. So in terms of the Handdrawn Maze software, whilst it's on offer, yes or no, would you recommend people go and check that out?
Yes, definitely check it out. Even the base package, even if you don't get the extensions, the base package, which works out of £35, $49, is it? $47?
I can't remember what it is, but
A
yeah, something
bargain.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bargain in
Yeah.
itself.
Awesome. Well, mate, I think, you know, a lot of people are going to learn a lot of things here from you. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I've learned stuff today. I'm happy. So, yeah, thanks.
I'm honored. Thank you, Chris. And your channel to say that. It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome, mate. All right. Chat to you soon.
Okay. Bye, Chris.
Cheers. Bye. Okay, so that's it for the interview with Harry. Now, if you have any questions for me or for Harry, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. If you're interested in getting the software that me and Harry are going to be using for our publishing businesses in 2022, which is the Handdrawn Maze software, then you can pick that up from the description below. And also you can check out the review for that, the pricing structure of that, and the exclusive bonuses that I give away when you purchase that through me. You can do that just by checking that all out in the description. So if you'd like to look at that software, the promotion price for that is going to end on the 25th of February. Okay. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you in another one very soon.